Chop it down. Chop it down. Chop it down. You gon' chop it down. Chop it down. You gon' chop it down. I just appreciate everybody watching. Watch him throw the ball. We gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through fourth and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders, heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Dive.
Sir. Yes, sir. Welcome back to another episode of the Trap or Dive podcast provided to you by 214 Media. I'm your host, Mual, Hen Dog Mual, Coach Mual, all that good stuff, man. And the fellas are here. Dre is in here, AJ is in here. Fellas, how y'all doing?
Shit, man. It's off season for us, but it's always the off season for us early shit. So I mean, you know what I'm saying, but it's all good other than that.
Oh, we already in Cancun, huh?
Yeah, shit, we've been this is December.
Nah, no bull. AJ, how you feeling, big dog?
Good, man. Just cooling.
That's good. Let's go ahead and get the administrative item out of the way right quick, man. If you are on YouTube right now, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure that subscribe button is definitely appreciated. Podcast side, we got some things in the works, but you are hearing this on Hogs Haven right now. Make sure you stay tuned and stay locked in with the subscription. We got some things in motion, and I guess when I get some clarity, you know, about the immediate next step, we'll all be on the same page in that regard. But fellas, look, we got some updates to talk about. We got some roster moves, some pending free agents that we need to figure out in terms of the team as we get ready for that March period, that very next period for the Commanders. Even though, you know, OC is the immediate thing. Matter of fact, we might as well dive into OC first, and then transition into the roster. So as far as we know, since the last time we talked, I think we talked about the conversation of Thomas Brown interviewing with the Commanders last week. And this week we had since we did the podcast, we had an update about Anthony Lynn interviewing for the job. He actually interviewed today. We are recording this on Wednesday evening for those who are listening. So Anthony Lynn was interviewed today by Ron Rivera. And according to Ben Standig, he said that Ron Rivera was the sole person who interviewed Lynn today. And then as well, we had a report come out over the weekend. I believe it was Sunday, if not Saturday, whatever, that the Commanders are definitely interested in Eric Bieniemy and Chiefs offensive coordinator, for those who don't know. But Eric Bieniemy, and he is a key potential candidate for Ron Rivera and staff. And obviously, there has been no news on an interview. He is in a Super Bowl, and I guess everything will fall in place after that. But with those two names, fellas, I'm handing the floor to you all. How do you all feel about those two names? Do they move the needle at all? I know for me, and I'll be quick. My thing with this whole OC search was I kind of had I got people I'm interested in, right? Thomas Brown is one. I like the dude Charles London from Atlanta. I was interested in him. But even I was kind of interested in Greg Roman to an extent, but I'm not necessarily 100% all in on an offensive coordinator. Like, it doesn't really mean a big deal to me for several reasons that we'll probably touch on once you all, get things off your chest. But where are you all at with Bieniemy and Anthony Lynn?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good to see those brothers. It's good to see those brothers get interviews and get opportunities of this nature to put their name in a nationwide mix of OCs. Anthony Lynn recently, of course, he's with the 49ers, but previous to that, he's been the head coach of the Chargers. Did a pretty good job. They just couldn't, close out some games. But overall, his players loved him. He did call the offense for the Detroit Lions before Ben Johnson took over. Whatever happened there, it didn't really work out. But, I mean, if you look at what he was working with talent-wise compared to what he could possibly be working with in Washington, is night and day. Eric Bieniemy, definitely going to another Super Bowl as OC. Some people don't want to give him credit for calling plays. Some people identify it a different way. Some people think so many different things, so many takes on Eric Bieniemy. You would think he was like a celebrity or a politician or something of that nature.
I got some
People
thoughts on that one.
Yeah, people want to dig on his past, all that, but that's what happens when you're a black candidate and you with a team that's balling, but you don't seem to be landing the final destination job of head coach. So people just draw so many conclusions. Um, I feel like the OC hire is important, and the reason why I say that is because we see it as a lame duck year um, for Ron and company because of new ownership coming in. But Ron really believes that he has a chance to push this team to the next level. If he didn't and he wasn't confident, I think he would have walked away from the job. No matter how much it was paying him, he wouldn't have done a firing of a Scott Turner. Um, I think that he goes all in on um, a quarterback. And I feel like the OC is just one missing piece of that puzzle, as we've stated and it's been shown. Majority of the candidates he interviewed have been minority, from Charles London to Eric Studsfield to Bieniemy to Anthony Lynn. Bieniemy hasn't been interviewed yet, but most of the candidates have been black. I just don't see them standing still on not acquiring a quarterback. And I feel like that's also a part of the conversation with these OCs. If you're going to lure Anthony Lynn to fucking leave a San Francisco 49ers where they're competing for actual chips, or Eric Bieniemy from Kansas City Chiefs where he's working with one of the greatest quarterbacks we've ever seen in Patrick Mahomes, no matter if he doesn't have a head coaching job or not yet, there has to be another reason why they would leave there besides possibly elevation of being a head coach. At least Anthony Lynn's been there, but for Bieniemy, it's like you got to be kind of selling me on the fact that, hey, we're gonna go all in at quarterback, whether it be the likes of a Aaron Rodgers, a Lamar Jackson, or maybe even a Derek Carr. That might be intriguing.
Yeah, and for me, with Anthony Lynn and Eric Bieniemy, I look at those two guys as pretty much the best case scenario for Ron Rivera in the positions he's been in. I mean, we've talked about it for the last couple of weeks, about the lame duck situation and whatnot, and also just our level of interest in everything that's going on with the OC job. The candidate search and everything. But as I said before, like I just feel like they've been building up and waiting to see. I think Bieniemy's their number one answer. They're just waiting to see what he's going to do or how he's going to respond after whenever Kansas City finishes playing in the Super Bowl. That's the case for here. But Lynn, man, he's interesting. Like I said, he's a guy, like AJ said, he coached the Chargers. I mean, he's been around the league for a while. He hasn't been offensive coordinator at too many spots, but he has a lot to prove. I mean, he had his tenure at San Diego. I thought he got a raw deal with that. Phillip Rivers, he caught Phillip Rivers on the tail end of his career. And then he inherits Tyrod Taylor. He got rookie year Justin Herbert. And you saw Justin Herbert show flashes his rookie year of what he could be and who he is now as a quarterback. So I think if he would have had Justin Herbert for maybe a year or two more, he may still be a head coach right now. It's just unfortunate, how his tenure ended. And if you look at the Chargers when he was there, they were a top 10 offense for most of the years he was coaching it. Even in Justin Herbert's rookie year, they had a top 10 offense, and that's his bread and butter is the offense. I mean, he's similar to Eric Bieniemy in that their background is running backs, and they both coach running backs as well. And Eric Bieniemy, now he is the more higher profile of the two, I think, even though Anthony Lynn has been a head coach. But Eric Bieniemy, as AJ said, he has like this celebrity profile, celebrity status with him, and that's a lot of that is due to him being a part of that Chiefs run that they are on. He has a big part in that. But again, he's not getting a lot of that credit. You know, whenever people talk about the Chiefs' success, you rarely hear Eric Bieniemy. In fact, you know, you probably don't even know Eric Bieniemy's name if you aren't like a diehard person of the sport, like a diehard fan of the sport. And Eric Bieniemy is a guy, and like AJ said, they're making excuses and they're saying he doesn't have a lot to do with the success. They're going back to the late 80s, early 90s to talk about his off the field problems and everything is a reason why he can't get a head coaching job. I mean, who knows really? But this is a spot, like I said, with Ron, if he can land either one of those guys, he's, you know, this is the best I think he can do. I mean, we talked about the Londons and the Studsville and those guys. They're not proven at this level. I mean, they may go somewhere else and they may, you know, start to become a star somewhere, but right now they're not proven. And because Ron, like we all have talked about, is in his lame duck year, I think his best play is a guy like Eric Bieniemy or Anthony Lynn, where those two guys have experience and they've also been under, you know, more veteran head coaches before. They're used to working under those situations. But again, both of these guys have a heavy chip on their shoulder. Anthony Lynn still, well, he wants to get out there and be another head coach again. He probably feels like he didn't get a good deal out in San Diego. Eric Bieniemy hasn't had the opportunity yet to be a head coach. And, you know, he can knock out a couple of the excuses for why that hasn't been in Washington. If he comes here, he's the main play caller. And, you know, Washington goes to the playoffs in a tough NFC East division. Now, Eric Bieniemy's name is hot, and that happens regardless of what happens with Ron Rivera's situation as, you know, ownership looming and whatnot. If Eric Bieniemy comes to Washington and he puts together a successful season, I don't know, I'm not even going to put an expectation on a number I expect them to be as far as ranking wise, but if you view Washington's season offensively as any kind of success, Eric Bieniemy's name shoots probably to the top of head coaching jobs. So it's a win-win situation. I think if Eric Bieniemy was to look at this situation, I think a lot of people have been saying, why would he choose Washington? I think I just made a good reason why he would choose Washington because, you know, obviously there's the other side of that where Ron Rivera gets fired. They look bad at Eric Bieniemy. He's, you know, back to square one as far as how he's looked at in head coaching circles. But again, if he's confident in himself and he can do, if he knows what he can bring to the table, and he brings any kind of success here, he's number one for the head coaching job. But again, I think these are Ron's best plays here with these two guys.
Yeah. One thing for me, and we can get to the roster after that. I guess one thing with me, and I agree with everything that you all said. I don't really, Brad, like to harp on the fact that this guy, whether he does or doesn't call plays, I'm speaking of Bieniemy, from an outsider's perspective, meaning anybody who's not in the know in Kansas City, like to have that be like a point of emphasis for you as if that's a good hire or a bad hire. Like, understand he's been around Andy Reid for X amount of years. Like, he's been around some good coaches for X amount of years. He's understood and been able to accumulate so much knowledge that we can't even account for as we're talking about it on this show. And like, people are hesitant for obvious reasons that you all mentioned. Like, they're trying to find these excuses for why he may not work, or why he's being a poor, reportedly, I think that's important. He's allegedly or reportedly a poor interviewer. Like, all of that stuff is just ways to get in the way of saying why he can't do a job or why you think that he can't do a job. And I'm not saying all this to say that he is the perfect candidate or he will do a great job year one in every single season as a play caller, wherever he goes, if he does decide to leave Kansas City. But I am saying all of these excuses that you all had for why he can't do it won't be the reason why he fails. It's either he is a good coordinator or he isn't a good coordinator on his own without Andy Reid. And what did he learn? What did he take away? And for a person of that age, I just think that it's important to understand that he's not new to this. He has NFL experience, he has coaching experience, and he's learned from the best. Like, for you to sit here and scoff at that idea or be hesitant at that idea because he doesn't call plays is outright foolish. Like, Washington has already interviewed several candidates who aren't calling plays. Thomas Brown, a person who a lot of people have all of a sudden been enamored with. Rightfully so. Like, the reports in the comments about him, good. But if you're enamored with Thomas Brown and he hasn't called plays and he's getting this opportunity in Washington, why are you hesitant on Eric Bieniemy? Is it because you know a little bit too much on him? in the reporting, the alleged reports of him, like that makes no sense. And I feel like it's not fair to Bieniemy. So all I'm saying is for everybody out there who, if you have those hesitancies, I think that you just need to wipe the slate clean. And if Bieniemy ends up in Washington, understand that that is not going to be the reason why he is succeeding or failing. It's not because of that. It's because of whatever inherent issues that he has as a play caller or coordinator. Those are it. It has nothing to do with that other stuff like play calling experience or whatever. I don't think that's going to be the case. I am interested in Anthony Lynn too. I have no issue with him. It's good. I think what tree is Lynn under? Is that Shanahan? Do we know?
He played for Shanahan in Denver, I believe.
Okay. Okay. So
I don't really know what tree.
Okay. All right, so I'm not going to assume then. But I'm in my head when I think Shanahan, I think zone scheme.
I think he started as an assistant right after he finished playing with Shanahan. So I mean, you can kind of put him in there. He didn't have a significant role on Shanahan's original staff, but you can probably still say he came from that tree.
Okay. All right, so there we are. Updates on offensive coordinator. Add Anthony Lynn to your bucket. Add Eric Bieniemy to your bucket. Huh?
Yeah, it says he came from the Romeo Crennel, Jack Del Rio, Bill Parcells, Rex Ryan, Mike Shanahan tree.
Okay.
Oh, so Jack Del Rio can get an ally if he come here.
He could. He could. All right, let's get into our roster, man. Let's start with the big ticket items, and then we'll work our way down with some other things that we need to clean up with. I'll start with the defensive line. Obviously, we know Daron Payne is the big money, the big dog. And for Daron Payne, the numbers did come out this week. I think Monday or Tuesday, $19 million to franchise tag Payne, $16 million to transition tag him. And I believe Washington, assuming that they do cut Carson Wentz, will have around $32 million after they let him go, which is the fifth most cap space in the NFL for this offseason. Fellas, your overall thoughts on what to do with Payne, the next steps, but also I'll ask this question. You can answer it in your response. Did the Commanders miss their window for a long-term deal with Daron? I'll hand it over to you all for your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I feel with Daron, it's simple and straightforward to me. You got to pay him. It's going to be more than what Jonathan Allen contract was and is. And I think Jonathan Allen would be perfectly fine with that. He's probably making up some of that money, too, from incentives by being in Pro Bowls and possibly being amongst the all-pro list. But at the end of the day, you got to get it done. I feel like one thing Ron Rivera and this team has done a poor job at is having foresight. It's pretty obvious that Daron Payne is goddamn talented. And if you put him in the right situations to attack the passing game more, he could put up these numbers because he's so athletic and quick off the ball. He has good twitch. And if you just show him, proper hand placement, he could be an elite pass rusher. That was the scouting report coming out of Bama. Now you're going to have to pay that man 20 and up. So I think it gets done. I think they can't afford to lose a Daron Payne overall because of his skill set. But then even when you look at the roster, there's no one to really fill in those shoes at all. You got Ridgeway and Mathis, young players going into their second year, coming off an injury, a torn pec and a torn ACL, MCL or something like that. I think Mathis has. You don't have nobody else to step in. You got to keep this D-line together, and especially, you got to show your team that if you produce, we intend to keep you around. Now, the other conversation gets tricky when you talk about like a Montez Sweat. Maybe there's some flexibility there, but overall, you got to do everything in your power to keep Payne in-house.
And I agree with AJ again, and the reason why I've been talking about this for a while.
Thank you.
I mean, I like I said, this is one topic I keep bringing up, and to me, it's a topic of, on this team, what's more valuable right now, the edge or the D tackle? And we've seen Payne and Allen's impact together with only one edge rusher out there, Montez Sweat, with Chase Young being injured. And we saw the impact of the defensive line. And those two guys create so much havoc that, you probably don't even need a Montez Sweat on the end or Chase Young on the end to be, successful with that defensive line. But with those two in just one of those edge guys, you're going to have a hell of a defensive line. So, and also my thought or theory is that you're going to get more return value. Now, this is if you have a proactive front office, if Ron and them are looking into foresight into the future. I think a valuable edge rusher nets you more in a trade than an interior defensive lineman. So that's where you start dangling a Montez Sweat in this case. If you still, believe in Chase Young as your face of the franchise, and you keep you keep John Allen and Daron Payne together. Again, I'm not worried about the salary, and for reasons that AJ mentioned as well, is that John Allen doesn't strike me as the type of guy that's going to be jealous of Daron Payne getting his contract. If John Allen is who he's presented himself to be to the media, and that's the ultimate team guy, he's going to be happy for Daron Payne, and it's all about the team, and he's going to be happy to keep the team together. He doesn't strike me as a personality that's going to be upset because, his running mate Daron Payne has signed for a bigger contract. I think you keep Daron Payne again because, like I said, that just makes the defensive line so formidable. Like I said, I don't even think you need a Montez or Chase out there to even have success with those two guys. But again, you have to keep one of those edge guys in Chase or Montez. But that's what I've been talking about as far as I think you get more value when you dangle an edge rusher versus the interior line. So I'm starting to look, if I'm Ron Rivera and his staff and I'm being proactive, I'm starting to look this summer for a trade partner for Montez, maybe even before the draft. Maybe you can get some good compensation there.
I think that's a solid idea before the draft. Like my reason of asking, even if they miss their window, is actually to what AJ brought up, the lack of foresight. But like Washington is banking on Daron Payne. In my opinion, I felt like they knew that Daron Payne was going to find it at some point, but I don't think they knew that he was going to exceed their expectations beyond the level in which they did. Like he damn near broke a record for interior defensive linemen in terms of the sack record. He tied it. And I think for Daron, understanding his situation this year, I don't think this is a contract year, I got to show out. I think it's literally finding his way, finding his ability to consistently win in the pass game. I think that is what he was missing, and it was always the case. And nobody knew when it was going to hit, but he put in the work this offseason, and that's not a person who is that is having a fluke season. It's a person who really worked their ass off to get to the point in which they're at. But I think that he exceeded their expectations. They took a gamble on Daron Payne, hoping that they can after this year re-sign him, but maybe re-sign him at a reasonable deal. But now that's out the number. That's out the door. Like at this point, ESPN even has him ranked as their fourth highest or their fourth best free agent this entire offseason. Like he is the fourth highest rated free agent out of all positions for ESPN. I forgot who wrote the article. I actually didn't even see the article. I heard this. And for Daron, you're in a situation where you're looking to get this money, and I can understand them trying to franchise him. And I think that's ultimately what's going to be a trickle down effect to not being able to get something done. Because Daron is going to he's going to make so much more money on the market if he plays his cards right. And it may entail him staying down for one season, $19 million to wait until next year, so long as he keeps producing. But at the end of the day, I think that is a lot of money for an interior person in terms of like collectively with John Allen and Daron Payne. But I think you can make it work if you decide to offload somebody on that defensive line. And that somebody may be Montez Sweat. I think that would be the most ideal person in my head, understanding who Montez Sweat is. He's a good player. He does get a lot of wins, but he get a lot of wins off of like line games, in my opinion, based on what I saw. It's not necessarily true one-on-ones. It's not true quick wins and true domination on that tackle wherever they line them up. I think Chase Young is the person who boasts that potential and holds that potential. So you may want to look at a Montez Sweat and see what you can do. if you want to be proactive. But also, if you want to keep this thing together, then you can live with a tag on Payne as and figure something out with Sweat down the line. So long as you find your quarterback this offseason, because you got to do it. Like, this defense ain't going to hold itself up forever. You got to find your quarterback, and you got to find a solution on that other side of the ball so you can get some wins and make that defensive front actually stand out from a national perspective. Sure, like, people know that the defense is good, but if you want these guys to, if these guys are going to get the recognition and whatever they need and things like that, you got to win. So I don't know what the true answer is with Payne in terms of like an extension. I think you can live with paying him, but you can't live with paying him and expecting to keep every person on that defensive line.
Well, Mual, let me also add to this about the Payne situation. I think this should be playing in the coaches' heads, or the not the coaches, but the front office staff, including Ron, because it's playing in my head as a fan, and that is that Trent Williams is a guy, and Ron Rivera had control over that situation at the end. However, Ron isn't the reason they didn't get great compensation for Trent Williams. We all know Bruce Allen screwed that situation up. But Ron came in on the tail end of this, and he had to deal with the back end of it. And he only got a third and a conditional fifth rounder or something like that for Trent Williams, which is just stupid for the best left tackle in the game. So you have to think that has to be weighing in on Ron and his staff's mind. And not even just that, Brandon Scherff as well. Like, Brandon Scherff walked last season for nothing. I mean, you got nothing back on the dime for Brandon Scherff. You got pennies on the dime for Trent Williams. Now you have a situation where you have Daron Payne, who is a free agent coming up this season, and you have Montez Sweat, who will be a free agent next year. I don't think you're going to be able to keep all of those guys. So to me, it's going to be just poor mismanagement of this roster and personnel if they don't either sign one of these guys back or both of them back, or you get offload one of them and get significant or real value for these guys. You can't let them walk as you did Trent Williams and Brandon Scherff. And Brandon Scherff, we know he went on the franchise tag. As Mual, you may have suggested that just now that Daron Payne may be an option for the franchise tag, which is very legitimate, but you cannot let these guys continue walking out of here for nothing, because these are some of your premier talents. And this team we're not used to premier talents on this team. So if you're not going to keep the premier talent, you got to get something in return for them. So I think that they have to have that in mind going forward.
Look, man, put your nuts on the table, bro. Simple as that. If you want to be good, you got to be willing to trade, will and deal. Like, you got to be willing to do it if something doesn't work out in negotiations, like whichever who is with. It could be Montez Sweat, it could be Daron Payne, or it could be this next person we're talking about. And let's go ahead and transition to that boy at safety. Cam Curl, his extension is looming, man. He's heading into year 4. His contract talks should be happening soon. I would assume AJ knows better than me just in terms of general contract talks, but it usually happens as a person who has a 4-year contract. He's not a first round pick. He's entering his 4th year. So essentially you would like to have that before he enters his last year. What are you all paying him? Where are you at with him? I know we want to have a larger conversation about, what we're seeing with the fan.
Ain't even the fans. It's his damn daddy, dog.
Somebody said, what he say, Drake, the dude that you sent the screenshot of? He said, bro, Sean Taylor, Cam Curl and Derek Forrest is what we were hoping Sean Taylor and LaRon Landry to be. Like,
look, I love y'all, man, but y'all gotta stop that shit, man. Y'all have to stop that, man.
Why would you even do that to yourself, bro? And then 440 people liked it at the time you sent it to me, bro. Like, all 440, bro. No disrespect, but yes, y'all got it. Y'all, please stop. Grow up.
No, with all disrespect, because I'm starting to think people that watch this team are really stupid, really stupid. And like I said, I mean it with all disrespect, because at the end of the day, it's just I understand fans and fandom, but your naked eye doesn't show you that this man makes plays to garner the pay that even his father has put out there to start this conversation for real. people been saying he need an extension. But when your pops come out there, that's why during negotiation period, you always tell like the people close to the situation, hey man, tell your folks don't speak on what's going on. Like,
I
don't
was
make
going to
no
ask you
social
that too,
media.
AJ. Like, because people have done that in the past, like, and it's damaged negotiations, hasn't it?
It hurts because it's like you just want to keep the conversation between you and the team, and now you got someone speaking outward. Like it just happened last year. I'll give y'all example. A guy from the DC area, is friends with Debo Samuel. He came out and posted and said, "Hey, we ain't talking unless it's so and so dollar amount," and that's not how Debo's agent gets down. That's not how he's trying to do business. You feel me? That
Oh
caused
yeah, I
hysteria,
remember that one.
and that's also what led to a lot of speculation about the Jets being in play as a destination for him and him being on the trade market. And it's just like you can't do that. In this case, man, Cam Curl is just another guy. As our guy Manny Benton would say, he's a jack. Like I understand that he helps align people and calls plays, and that's because Ron Rivera and company have done a poor job in securing the middle linebacker. That's why. But since his rookie season, he has made no interceptions and has one fumble recovery. Why in the world would we be talking about paying this guy premium dollar at safety as if he's Buda Baker, Derwin James, Minka Fitzpatrick, even a Jesse Bates? Like, like why would we be talking about that? For me, when it comes to Cam Curl, I'm letting him play his contract out and he can bounce next year. We can go about finding somebody different. Like, yeah, look at the list. Like, you got Marcus Williams, Kevin Byard, Harrison Smith, Jamal Adams. Even though he
That
gets
man
hurt,
said
he
80
does play.
mil, bro. That's the number
He
one paid safety, dog.
he makes plays. Like Cam Curl has done nothing in his career to garner that type of money. He's not an impactful player. I'm sorry. If his dad watches this episode and hears this, I apologize to your son. But you gotta start keeping it a buck with him, and also keeping it a buck
Or
with
just be
yourself.
quiet. Yeah, you don't even got to say nothing.
Yeah,
Just
because
let the
at the
negotiations talk.
he's gonna get paid more than what he's been getting as a 7th round pick. But to be out here engaging with fans and articles and whatever, 80 mil, nothing less, like, or having people send possible options, like that shit ain't, my bad for even cursing, but
You good?
that's not cool. You feel me? At the end of the day, then Cam comes out and says, people watching my pockets. No, it's your pops. Your
Yeah, he
pops putting people in
paying
your
attention.
mix. Like at the end of the day, if a deal get done and get done, I just don't see it getting done. If you struggling or playing out the long game with a Daron Payne and Terry McLaurin, you're not thinking about re-signing Cam Curl, especially if there has to be some thought process where he thinks he's supposed to get premium dollar at safety. His pops didn't just come out there blindly and just say that. He actually, and that's why he was saying during the season he wanted to get interceptions so bad, because he
He
knows
knew he needed him.
he knows he needs them in order to speak about himself as a top 10 safety to get paid that type of money, and it's not gonna happen. He'll get a cool little payday from being a 7th round pick, but if it were my team and I was running it, I would go acquire another safety this year. I let him play out the rest of his contract, and I would not be re-signing him next year. I'm sorry. Bye.
Drake, wait, I follow up after.
No, yeah, I was just gonna say I like Cam Curl. I mean, I'm a Cam Curl fan, but no, that whatever money they was talking about or how this conversation got put up, he's not that. Like if I'm even looking at this list that Jamal put up, I'm putting Cam Curl's contract, if he's getting a new contract, somewhere between the Quandre Diggs range and the John Johnson range. Like he's getting somewhere between that, for a contract. I don't know if he's getting it here, but that's pretty much his range. He's not in that Derwin James to Jamal Adams tier where he's going to get something. No, that's not going to happen because, I mean, as AJ stated, he's not a playmaker. I mean, he's a guy that he plays the game the right way. I mean, he's one of those guys when you talk about like the white defensive ends, like the Jared Allens and everything. Oh, they play the game the right way. Cam Curl's that guy. Like, he's not going to go out there. He's not going to wow you with a bunch of wild plays. He's not going to make a force or create a bunch of turnovers, but he's usually in the right position at the right time to make a tackle or to not let you get beat in a certain spot. But that doesn't equal to top tier range when it comes to paying strong safeties. I mean, because that's what he is. He's not a free safety. He's a guy. He's more on the strong safety side. So that's why I say he's more in that Quandre Diggs to John Johnson range of salary. I think that's what he'll end up getting paid, but nothing more, nothing less, unless he just becomes a huge playmaker overnight.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. Like, you got to understand, first off, I don't even want to make it sound like we all jumping his dad, because it's not about the dad itself, just the number that he threw out there, and all of a sudden it's become a thing. Like $80 million, bro. Like, in my head, I'm like, do you even know the numbers in terms of like the actual money that these safeties are making? And then do you even understand like the position that your son is playing, right? And does it warrant free safety money? Does it warrant like Earl Thomas, like when he was a roamer, like he can do everything back there? Like, does it warrant that type of money? And you don't get that from Cam. And Cam is very important to this defense for the fact that he can communicate on all three levels. I would assume all three levels. I know he can communicate second and third. I would assume all three, but he can also make plays in the box. He can also cover your tight ends to an extent. Like, he ain't that physical, or as physical as he could be. But at the end of the day, he's not a difference maker. And ultimately, when you even reach that AAV of 14 million, that's where you're getting the matter of fact 13, as you just said, Dre. You're getting Quandre. That's where Quandre's starting. And then after that, you got Eddie Jackson, Buda Baker, Justin Simmons, Harrison Smith. Like, I mean, Harrison's about to be done soon. He cooked. But then, I mean, and Jamal Adams, I think he cooked too. Even though he's an explosive athlete still, he just keep getting hurt. The point being, like, you get it. Like, when you get up to those numbers, you get somebody that's continuing to make plays. Dakota Move, bro. You are disruptive right now. But yeah, like that's kind of where I'm at with, and even Tyrann, man. Tyrann is making $9 million a year, and he is a dog. Like, he's just got himself a deal in New Orleans that benefits him. I don't know the stipulations. I don't remember it last year, but yeah, that's just kind of where it is with Tyrann. So I think for Cam and for Washington, I like Cam too. I'm not a person who's going to let him walk. And the reason why I said AJ, because we had a conversation about this yesterday, where I said I agree with some of what you said, and I don't agree with some of what you said. I'm not calling the future with Cam. Like, he still has another year left, and if you're content, Washington meaning, if you're content with not letting or not getting him on the deal this year, or even if the numbers aren't where they need to be on both sides, you can see how he blossoms in his fourth year. Like, it's not the end of the story for Cam after year 3, but he ain't $80 million after year 3. Like, that's just not him. And he's not even $10+ million after year 3. So it's on Cam if he wants to take the deal.
He's not even $6 million for me.
$6 million is where Von Bell. Damn, I wish this was sorted. Marcus May is 7.5. Xavier Woods is $5 million. Jordan Whitehead $7 million. Nah, I mean, he could fit in that range, but you know what? I ain't gonna lie to you, Dre. I mean, AJ, he may be a little bit less than $6 million too. Looking at this list, yeah, he may be a little bit less than $6 million too. Right now. But my point is, and why I disagree with you yesterday, was more so because the story isn't the book isn't written on Cam in terms of like his value. He can still continue to improve and upgrade and show his worth to this defense, but he has to find a way to start creating turnovers and making plays. That's his next step. But I agree with you, man. Right now, in terms of like replacement level, like, he's replaceable. Like, there's a lot of people on people's teams who are replaceable. They're important to you right now, but if you find better, you can move on. But I don't think that's a position of need this offseason. clearly you can continue to ride out with him. Any last thoughts before we get to the QB? I guess we'll wrap up the other positions. We have some more time. We can wrap up the other positions next week. But we can finish up with the quarterback spot. Matter of fact, quarterback and another position. But any last thoughts on Cam?
No,
Cool.
not at all for me.
Cool. So, a couple of surprise or maybe low-key needs for Washington, in my opinion, is running back and tight end. We know about the offensive line. We'll touch on that. And we know about linebacker. We'll touch on that next week. But tight end, I feel like with Bates, Turner, Curtis Hodges, and Armani Rogers, those are some younger guys. You may need to try and bring in a vet if you're Washington. You may need Dakota. Jesus Christ. You may need to try to bring in a vet, or maybe even look into the draft and try and find another person that can be a bona fide starter. But if you're going in the draft, I think that you go high end with tight end. And then in terms of running back, Jared Patterson is a restricted free agent. Jonathan Williams, unrestricted free agent. And then you got McKissick on the contract, but he's been dealing with some significant injuries, like a neck injury this year, ended the season. So right now you're looking at Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson. Those are some two low-key positions that should be some priorities for Washington. What do you all think about running back and tight end? And then we'll close out with quarterback after.
Yeah, I would love to see them get a more explosive running back, but I guess one of the guys that I'd be interested in, I don't know if he'll be around, say the second round, but I like Jahmyr Gibbs out of Alabama. I think he's a every down back.
What's his boy, Baby Kamara?
Yeah, I feel like he's an every down back. I'm just not a big believer in Brian Robinson as the number one. I think he's a complimentary piece, but I feel like they need a home run hitter back there, running back, that can also be dependable in the passing game too.
And it's funny, AJ mentioned Jahmyr Gibbs. I love Jahmyr Gibbs out of Alabama. Like, he's the perfect, for JD McKissick replacement. He can be a number one guy coming straight out, but either way, you wouldn't have to force him to be that. You're going to have three options if you get a Jahmyr Gibbs type of player. I mean, and we do need that because we started to see that with JD McKissick. I mean, he started to get injured this last couple of seasons. I don't think he's finished the last couple of seasons. So, I mean, at some point, you're going to need that change of pace guy because I think as much as, Antonio Gibson is a guy we love and we talk about, he's not that much of a change of pace guy from Brian Robinson. I mean, they're kind of similar in a sense. They're still big power backs, but of course, AG does have more of that home run hitting power than Brian Robinson. But you are looking for that little smaller, shiftier guy, the one you can just, get the ball and he's a threat at any point to take it to the house. So I would love a Jahmyr Gibbs. And I do think that's probably going to be a surprising need for Washington. I don't think tight end is as much of a surprising need because if you look at the roster there or the depth chart there at the tight end position, Logan Thomas, I think I don't know what to make of him anymore.
Snip, cut.
That's what I'm saying. He looks
go.
slow this year, and he's still coming off that injury. He's a year older. He's getting in the 30s now. So it's at the point that I don't think you can rely on him too much. John Bates, I mean, he hasn't shown much more than a tight end 2 or tight end 3 guy at the most. And then there's the other guys like the Armani Rogers and, the guys like that. Those are the all potential guys. I mean, you still haven't seen much of them to warrant, any kind of guarantee to be a starter in this league. So I think tight end is kind of low key a huge need, man, for this team. And I think it has been for the last couple of years because we didn't know we were getting back with Logan Thomas last year when he was coming off of injury. So you have to address that position somehow. I would love to, get maybe a second or third round guy. I don't have any guys in mind right now for the tight end position, but I would love for them to address that kind of early to, just to add to the weaponry on the offense, especially, if you're shooter for the stars with an Eric Bieniemy or Anthony Lynn, you want to kind of present to these guys, hey, we're going to put as much offensive talent for you to work with. We're going to make us a presentable option for you. So you would love to add to that role. I mean, of course, we know quarterback is always the biggest need. So I don't have any surprise positions in need. I think the running back would be like the low-key position in need that a lot of people aren't talking about. That would be something they have to address this year, And it's not a necessity, but you still want to add to that and you want to make that room stronger because I think you're getting a little weaker there with JD McKissick's uncertainty.
Last thing, we know they're going to cut Wentz. Move on from Wentz. Maybe I quit Washington if they didn't cut Wentz. Heineke is an expected free agent. Well, he is an unrestricted free agent. They have to re-sign him to keep him on the roster. We know Sam Howell is the only person at this point that is on the roster. What is the best path for a quarterback? What are we thinking? Personally, even if I love Sam Howell or I love the idea of Sam Howell, because I do love the thought process behind moving forward with Sam Howell off the strength of being able to use so much money to support him through building up that offensive line and even finding some more weapons, even at tight end or running back. I love that idea, but I would be a fool to sit here and tell you that he should be going into 2023 as your undoubted QB1 with no veteran or rookie in place to either challenge / compete, like truly compete, or somebody to fully back them up. Like, it should be a thorough plan at quarterback. And I also think that you should, if you end up on Howell, I think that you should be ending up on Howell after you exhausted all options to find out who is going to be your QB1. And that means going through your scouting and figuring out who is the rookie that you love, or who are the rookies that you love, or trade options. And I pray to God we're not trading. Like, I think we need to be done with that. But just laying everything out there, like, you have to, if you end up on Howell, you have to exhaust all your options in order for it to end up on Howell, which is perfectly fine to do. And I am a fan of the Howell situation because of what comes with that, and that is the money.
Well, I think for Ron, it's different than last year's quarterback search. Actually, I mean the last couple of years. I don't think Ron has the luxury this year to go into it saying we can go as aggressively as we want to go out and identify a guy at this position. And that means, trade options on the table. I don't think big trade options are on the table for Ron and his staff this year because he doesn't have an owner backing him right now. Like, Dan is probably at this point, like, we're cash strapped, and he's probably also not aggressively hounding Ron to go out and get a guy either. And new ownership, that's just so much of a question mark. You don't know what they're going to do. So you got to figure that the only options available to Ron right now at the moment, or realistic options, are free agent quarterback, Sam Howell, or the draft. And I don't think that Ron, I mean, being in the draft position they don't have a really great draft pick this year. So you have to figure that unless they plan on making some big major trade up, which I don't foresee happening, that they're probably just going to keep building on the roster around, and maybe they'll get Sam Howell. But I mean, it's actually a pretty decent free agent quarterback class. I mean, I wouldn't say decent, but if you're talking about wanting guys to push Sam Howell, you have the perfect guys in free agency this year. I believe Andy Dalton's a free agent this year at quarterback. Baker Mayfield. I don't know what the 49ers are going to do with Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he may be a free agent this coming season. But I mean, point being, you have guys like this available this year that will be perfect to, if you're saying I'm going into the season and I want Sam Howell to win it, but I don't want to give Sam Howell the guy. You have a bunch of guys from that pool to pick from, because I don't realistically, for Ron in his position, I just don't see a rookie being the answer for him where he's drafting at. Like, he's not in a position to draft, the top tier guys like Bryce Young and Will Levis and those type of guys. He's more into the project range where you're talking about the Anthony Richardsons and, those type of guys. So I just don't foresee him hitching his wagon to one of those guys. I do see the realistic possibility being more so of they're going to back Sam Howell and they're going to look at that free agent pool of veteran guys for someone to push him this year. I think that's the realistic situation for Washington.
I think the domino starts next week. Derek Carr's situation. He either has to he either will be traded or released. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think the Jets go after Aaron Rodgers. Derek Carr has very few landing spots that really make sense. You could look at the Buccaneers, but you could also pinpoint Washington as two of the main places that could be of interest to him. I don't think it happens via trade. I think it could happen as a signing. And then you also have this Lamar Jackson thing. I'm willing to bet something, and I don't bet, but I'm willing to bet Sam Howell does not start as Washington's quarterback for week 1. Ron is trying to save his job, and the only way to really do that is to acquire a quarterback better than Carson Wentz. And I don't think anyone in that free agency pool is going to be someone of particular interest to him. I think they're going to go all in on acquiring a quarterback. Why wouldn't you? I mean, if it don't work out, you ain't got to deal with the ramifications of it. You feel me? Like if you Ron Rivera, you could trade the whole future. It ain't gonna be your future, but at the end of the day, you have no ramifications if this don't work. And I think something close to watch if an OC like an Anthony Lynn gets hired, expect to see Tyrod Taylor in play to be a quarterback here in Washington.
Yeah. They did have a connection for sure. What are your percent chances now that AJ brought it up because he's willing to bet? So matter of fact, let's just ask the question. What are the percent chances that you all have for Howell actually starting? I know he said that he's betting that he's not, but I know there's a percent chance on you. Like it got to be a percentage out there. So where are you all at? I'll start it off. A percent chance that Sam Howell is. It may be my optimism talking because of what I really want. As I've outlined, but I would probably say like there's a 70% chance that Howell starts week 1. I think that is the guy that they brought in, even though they failed to even truly evaluate him because they thought that he wasn't ready for a week 18 game. But maybe something changed their mind and they was like, you know what, we're stupid. Let's go ahead and move forward with him. But I say 70%. Mute, Jerry. You on mute?
Yeah, I'll say 55% chance that Howell starts this coming year. I think he's the most likely starter. And again, and if this was any other situation where you got, a stable coach and, this guy's going to be here for a couple of years, Sam Howell starting week 1 would just be absurd to me. Like, it just would not make any sense at all to me. But because I feel like Ron's in a situation he's in where, you don't really have a lot of options available at you to go out and just get, maybe a guy that you want. I mean, maybe there's a unique situation where they can go out and, trade the farm for Lamar Jackson. He accepts. But right now, to me, that's a pipe dream. So I do see Sam Howell being the most likeliest of candidates unless you are going into that free agent pool for somebody. And they're going to probably gear that competition towards more so Sam Howell could win. So I'm going with 55% chance that Sam Howell wins.
Yeah, I think the way the NFL is scripted, they're not gonna let Sam Howell be the
best
quarterback.
time on Twitter the last 24 hours, bro. Oh my god, that shit is hilarious, bro.
Oh, what started that? I saw Alvin Kamara make some joke about that. What's the deal behind that?
I'm gonna send it to you. It's so it was a clip with Arian Foster on a podcast, bro. And I don't even know the person that he was with, but like they were doing some bit. It was just a joke, but they were dead serious. There was no like laughing or anything. They were having a conversation about the NFL being rigged, and they started. Part of the conversation was talking about how every single season is scripted. Like you already know what's going to happen as the season goes along, and so many people on Twitter, like probably like the tweet read, Arian Foster, explaining how the NFL is literally rigged, and like so many people commented, so many people were like buying into the conversation, or so many people were even just buying off the headline, like not even listening to the video, and then all of the quote tweets just started popping off, booming about these jokes and like JPP's hands when he did what he did, unfortunately, respectfully, but JPP jokes, Antonio Brown jokes, Dallas Cowboy jokes about them being terrible for 20 plus years. Bro, it's hilarious. I'm about to send it to you right now.
Yeah, but with all being said, I feel like there's a 30% chance that Sam Howell starts week 1. Like I stated, man, if I'm Ron Rivera, I got to go all in for a quarterback. I don't have any ramifications in the future. I got to figure this out. I got to take it up another notch. I'm watching the Eagles do their thing with Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl. Daniel Jones may have found his place in New York, whatever that deal is. Of course, Dak is struggling in Dallas, but at the end of the day, I can't tout out this roster and say, hey, Sam Howell, you go ahead and lead the troops, like, and I'm gonna just go sign a veteran quarterback. Like, no way in hell. So yeah, I definitely feel like Sam Howell is at a 30% chance of starting. But a lot of stuff is gonna start getting cooked up here in the next couple of weeks. As I stated, I believe that we'll know who will be buying the Washington Commanders next week. At some point, and we'll also start hearing more movement and talks about quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers and Derek Carr
next week. We'll see. We'll see. We'll keep our eye on everything, and for those that's listening and watching, we'll be back on Tuesday to discuss some more roster concerns and even dive into. I actually have a really good question for us that we'll tap into. I'm gonna save it now on my pad or my notes, my word notes, so we can generate that one. But that's gonna wrap it up for us this week, fellas. Y'all boys take care, man. I hope y'all didn't have money on the Bengals like I did, because I've been mad. Well, it's Thursday now, so I'm doing better. But I was mad for 2 straight days after the game.
You're late, bro.
Smart man. That was I was pissed off. I was so mad, and it wasn't even off the strength. Like the Bengals fought, they played hard and lost. But I could not, even with the Philly game when I had the money line on Philly, the officiating was terrible in that game for both sides. Headaches, stress, and
hey, you win some, you lose some, my boy.
Hey, nah, AJ, you right, bro. And with that being said, we up out of here, dog. Y'all take it easy, enjoy y'all day, enjoy y'all week, and all that good stuff, man.